Hello.
Hello.
All right. Every time I play my intro now, it cuts off at the end. It usually gives like a boom, so people like know like the song's ending. And for some reason, it's been cutting it off now. So I apologize, but every time like we get on there, all my guests are always like, because they don't know it's ending, so they don't know.
Pop right in. Well, some are a little different. Sometimes I've been sitting in the back room and they'll pop us in, or sometimes we always pop in. It all depends on how they set it up. So,
all right. So before we get started, love, let me just say hi to everybody that's checking in already. Hey, the Paranormal Voice. Hello. How are you?
Hello, Mike. How you doing, Dale?
I love that logo.
That's awesome.
I love that logo.
I got that shirt. I wear that shirt to the gym all the time.
Love it. I saw that, I think, on your page or saw it somewhere, and I fell in love with that logo. I was like, wow.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm like mad I didn't think of that. It's like really awesome. Hey. All right, so hello Midwest. Everybody's saying hi to each other.
Right.
Let me get to this here. Good evening, everyone. Hello. Thanks for checking. Hey, Kyle from Get Haunted. How are you, dear? Amber. She's one of the lovely ladies I party with in Gettysburg.
Okay, nice. How you doing, Amber?
Are you going to Gettysburg?
That is the weekend of the 15th, correct?
It is.
Unless it's different.
It is July 13th, 14th, 15th. 14th, 15th, 16th, I think.
I don't know. I believe I have a graduation party that weekend. I have to look and check.
I have to skip it. I just found out that the next year's. Oh, thank you. I would love that.
Those guys are awesome.
I saw their logo. I was just blown away. I was like, I love it. It's perfect. Don't ever change it. Dom from BB3 TV. Hey. There's a lot of people checking in already, so maybe we should start talking so we're not saying hi to everybody.
Sounds good.
Hey, I'm sorry if I miss you. Oh my gosh, number 4. Hey, loves of my life. Let me see. Oh yes, thank you. Grounded Paranormal, and that's the group she's in, from Western New York.
That's my area.
Yeah,
it's our area.
Yeah, they're awesome. I love them. They're great. You guys should like hook up and do something together.
Yeah, where in Western New York are you guys?
Yeah, well, she'll answer. She's watching.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. So, all right. So let's get started.
Let's do it.
So, for everybody that doesn't know, I met Frank recently. When was that? In April, right?
Yep, April in Gowanda at the Gowanda Psychic Fair.
Yeah, the Psychic in the Valley event.
Yep.
And you know how you just meet people and you just know that's my kind of people?
I appreciate that.
That's what happened. So right away I was like, come on my show, and he was like, absolutely. So we liked each other's pages and subscribed, friended, did all that good stuff. So since then, I go on his pages and stuff, and I'm confident in how I felt then, that I, picked up on what a good guy you are, and
I appreciate that. Thank you. And with
so,
your group was awesome that weekend. They were awesome. Even my buddy Tim said they were awesome.
Yeah, we are a wild bunch of girls, but we love each other, and we're here. Heather's here.
Hey,
Hey, Heather.
what'd you do? Oh, you finally get the Wi-Fi at the block?
Whoa, she can't hear us. Check your mic on. Oh, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. You can hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay, and now I can hear you.
All right, good.
Yay!
Wi-Fi fixed at the block?
No.
Well, you made it anyway. Did you get my messages saying, where are you?
No, because I was trying to get freaking internet at the Western Block.
See, listen, whenever we do something, Heather gets what's called Heather time because she's awesome, but she definitely has to have, you got to put her on your schedule on her time. So I usually give her about an hour and a half leeway to.
You can't tell me that. Don't let me know that.
Listen, Dan, I do not have any more posters in that office. I got rid of those.
Hi, Dan. I was just, you know what my favorite question is like, what's your favorite location? Right. And I have to take Gettysburg out of it. I always say that because Gettysburg's number one for everything in my life. So it's in its own category. But aside from that, it's the Hinsdale House. I love it. It's the best.
I was just at Hinsdale last Thursday shooting for Deathwalker.
That's awesome.
So it was good. It was a lot of fun. The house was interesting for sure. But
I love the property. It's not just the house; it's the property. It's
everything.
But with that said, I know, Heather, we want to talk about your place. I definitely want to hear about it and I want to learn about it because up until Frank, I had never heard of it, and I want, I want those locations, those types of locations to be heard. I want people to know that there's another location out there. I mean, as an investigator, you got people. I went into a place that we were the first to investigate, and right away there's all these teams that saw me live there, that were reaching out to them, and I'm like, well, and they're like new at this, right? Because it's a historical, they're like, they're getting their feet wet, with the paranormal stuff, and I said, listen, I said, just whatever you want to do, how do you want to work this? I said, you can either do it and I can help you, or we can learn. I'll teach you stuff and, we'll work together and we'll get a couple investigations in there. And we'll do, but right away people are, like I said, it's like, we're looking for new locations. We're looking for new locations. And
always those hidden gems.
Yes. So I do want to get to that for sure.
Excellent.
But I don't know what came first here. Like, I don't know if Frank, you were in the paranormal and found Heather's place. You guys started working together, or if you knew each other, but I definitely want to go around to how you guys now are working together and doing, what I mean? And helping each other, which I think is wonderful. But I don't know if you want to start, Frank, and then Heather can pick it up and then.
Sure. I'll start. A friend of mine and I started Buffalo Phantom Hunters back in 2015. We just started doing some public stuff, and you know how the public stuff is. You don't get a lot of what you're looking for because you get a lot of contamination. So, we sat down one night and we decided that we were just going to start doing it all by ourselves and go to these locations and start to get more and more evidence or things that we could start piecing together from this stuff. I like the history of places and things like that. So for me, that's really fascinating to actually correlate what happened at a certain point in time to what you can catch evidence-wise, whether it's EVP or a shadow or whatever the case may be. So to try to put that puzzle and all those pieces together, to me, is really fascinating. In 2020, when COVID hit, everything kind of shut. We all know everything shut down. So as it was starting to open up, Heather and I had a mutual acquaintance, and he introduced me to the building, and then he introduced me to Heather. And from that point forward, we started. She had an idea of what she wanted to do, and I had a plan of what I wanted to do as far as doing like public events and public ghost hunts and things like that. I'm really good at networking. I can talk to people. So it's really easy for me to go out somewhere and talk to somebody and talk things up. So when we would go do those public events, we would go with like the Wraith Chasers, and we would go with who else we went to. There was a couple other ones that we would go to with some of the public figures, so to speak. And I would sit back and I would watch them and watch how they handled people, watch how they handled the event itself, and just try to mold things after that in a professional way to do things like that. So I had this plan formulated in my head, and then when I met Heather, explained all that stuff to her, and then we just started going from there. So you want to pick up from there, Heather? You can pick up from there.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, like, so I was gonna ask you, but I guess you're gonna tell it, like, were you always in the paranormal, and then how you got to acquire a place that's haunted? Like, did you know it's haunted? Just the whole thing, and then hooking up with Frank here, and sounds like what you're doing is what I'm trying to do in Birdsboro. You know what I mean? Okay. With this one place, like trying to help them out. Right.
So my whole goal was to obviously go on investigations, do investigations, but to have a place to investigate where it was like a home base kind of thing, where I can investigate, or we could investigate, and then all of a sudden then bring other people in and show them as a tour, as a guide, to show them how to investigate, how we investigate, just to give them a taste of what's going on, that kind of thing.
Right.
And it's kind of snowballed, and we just go ahead, Heather.
All right. So I don't even know where to begin with with which questions to answer. But I wasn't always in the paranormal. I had paranormal experiences when I was younger, but I largely kind of, got out of it by the time I was a teenager. I didn't really have a whole lot of experiences anymore. And then, into young adulthood, my career choices kind of veered me in a different direction. Right. So it wasn't until really around COVID that I started jumping back in. I was at a few different places, like the Buffalo Central Terminal. I used to work there, and I had some great experiences there as far as the paranormal goes. And I think that's kind of what started to pull me back in, so to speak, with some of my experiences from when I was younger, as well as some of, kind of ideas that I started to pull with my own location, with my own property. So this property, the Western Block, isn't a 24/7 paranormal place, whereas some of the other ones dedicate all of their time towards the paranormal. We're actually an arts and cultural center too. Oh, so cool. When COVID hit, I was kind of looking for different ways to really get some events going on here, get, everything back open. We're just getting back out into society. People were just coming out of their houses. So it was kind of a neat thing, we could start doing. So prior to that, I had been looking for a team to, get together to help me really pull off doing tours of the Western Block, because we do have a good 200-year history here. And there's just a bunch of phenomenal stuff that goes on. So it was happenstance. Like Frank said, there was a mutual friend we connected through, and exactly what I had in mind is exactly what Frank, had in mind, and it just fit. Awesome. So yeah, when we decided to start really doing these, it was like it was meant to be.
What, if you don't mind me asking, what made you buy the place? Like, were you looking? Like, what made you? How did you get Western Block? Which, by the way, I love the name of it. And is it a Western Block because it is literally just one block of?
No. So
okay. Awesome.
There's a ton of history.
Yeah. So no, I was actually a tenant here when. It's still an arts and cultural center. But I moved in as a tenant in 2011. And it wasn't until 2015 that the previous owners approached me and asked if I wanted to take it over. And it was a childhood dream to own an arts and cultural center, an art place where, we could really teach and do all sorts of creative things and events and classes, education. So They didn't actually tell me about all of the paranormal stuff that happened here until after I purchased it.
Nice.
But
when you say tenant, is it apartments too?
No, so we're a good 100,000 square feet complex, and we have artists.
Big property.
Oh,
we have about 40 artist spaces, artists like offices, studios that artists can rent out to produce whatever creative thing they're working on. So we have textiles, we have photographers, we've got all sorts of different things like that. So yeah, I was a tenant and took over the building, and that's kind of what jumped me into, I guess.
So you never had any experiences there?
What's that?
So you never had any experience there?
Well, as a tenant, I would be here at like 2 a.m. and I'd be sitting in my own office and I would hear like people walking around and everything. And I really didn't think anything of it because I was more of the shy type, introverted. And I would never come out of my office at 2 a.m. to, go figure out who was here and say hi. But when my tenants, when I took over and my tenants started to approach me saying, hey, somebody's in the building, but I can't find them. Can you check the cameras? I would check the cameras and they'd be like, we hear them. They're right over here. I hear them in the hall right now. What's on the camera? Where are they? Nobody's there. I'm looking at the camera right now. Nobody's there.
Right.
So yeah, I'm fairly certain, I had experiences when I was a tenant and just never really wanted to acknowledge them.
Yeah, so it's like afterwards,
You're welcome.
after you see the stuff that's happening,
Yeah.
then you realize what it is, like you said, at the time you were just kind of thinking it was just, other people or, you weren't paying, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like I've got the ability to shut it off and block it out, which is kind of, my normal day to day, so I can get stuff done. And I think that had a large part to do with it. Because when we do our tours, I'm perceptive, I'm open, and do get a whole lot of experiences here.
So okay, so explain to me the building. So you have 100,000 square feet. Oh wait,
Yeah,
100,000 square feet of property, which is
100,000 square feet of building.
So like that's how do you investigate all that? I guess you wouldn't, right? You don't investigate all of it.
We can't. No, yeah. Our tours only do maybe about a quarter of the property, but it does go through a huge, decent portion. And when we do our public tours, our guided tours, we do hit a couple of the buildings that were built in the early 1800s. So they get a nice.
I would love to see it.
Yeah. So the property was built up. Torn down, built up, and torn down up until I think the last building that was built was 1980. The very first buildings were early 1820s. So very long history.
So it was started being built in 1820s.
Yes. Yep. And it's actually called the Western Block because of one of the companies that took over the property here. The last business before it became an art center. And they're the ones who really accumulated all of the buildings that create the property that it is today. We've got about 13 buildings that are all kind of interconnected.
We can't wait to have you guys.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. So are any of the buildings abandoned?
Not really abandoned, but they're not used. So there's some where the utilities have been shut off, and stuff like that. We've got a foundry, and it was the old original foundry to the factory. So it's not occupied by anybody, but we do have buildings that are in use and buildings that are not in use as part of the Arts and Cultural Center.
So can you give us not the detailed tour, but just basically maybe like a little timeline of the history of the stuff that's happened there, and if any of the findings that you guys have had from investigating correlates with any of the history, or
so we do a lot of research as far as the history of this complex goes, and we still haven't even scratched the surface. What's unique about this property, though, is there was a director, and his name was William Kenan Jr., and he actually kept phenomenal journals. And that really became the starting point where we dove into a lot of the different events that happened on the property. So we've got a great wealth of knowledge. We've got names of employees that worked here. We've got contracts for when they worked with the military during World War I and World War II. Just this expansive amount of information that we're still sifting through. But yeah, I mean, they were active during Prohibition, this property, with the movement of alcohol during that time period, which was illegal. And they, had fires here. They had the historical significance of the Erie Canal that was being built at the time, which is right across from our property. So there's a lot of different events that has shaped kind of what this property has become.
That's awesome. So I'm coming into town, you say there's different tours. So like, what would it be? I would call up and say, I want a history tour.
During the spring and the fall, we do once a month guided tours, but we also have private tours available. So yeah, if you had a group and you were coming in town and you wanted to set up a private, you'd get a hold of us and we'd arrange something.
You're talking about investigation, right? Paranormal investigation. Okay. Yeah.
And then our guided ghost hunts we do during October every Friday and Saturday, and then we have 3 sessions per day.
So what has been the most profound, or your favorite piece of evidence that you've gotten out of investigating there?
I mean, there's all sorts of different pieces. I think mine, it's always changing because we always come across something new. I think having my maiden name said back to me, which is like 4 syllables long, was pretty awesome. But I mean, that was kind of small compared to
outside of Syracuse.
We get here. But we've had shadows. We've seen shadows. Frank, I know he'll tell you his.
Yeah.
His favorite.
A lot of EVPs and disembodied voices.
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah.
So
what have you found, Frank? What's been your?
Well, you saw the video that we had up at Gowanda.
Yes.
Okay. So very first month that we did our tours, actually this was the second weekend we did our tours, we had brought a group up around about 8:30 or so it was, and they had started going down another hallway because they were discussing some of the EVPs and EMF and how the K2 meter works. And they were showing them how it works on the the electric panels and stuff like that. And I happened to turn and look through the classroom door, and I saw that shadow go across the wall. And I didn't think anything of it at the time because we were new to the building, so I didn't know all the nuances. So I just thought Heather had come up a different stairwell,
right?
Had walked across, and she was coming through the classroom. So we waited about a minute or so, and the classroom's not very big. And when she didn't come through, and I couldn't see her, I stepped in, and it was lit up a little bit. It wasn't crazy, but you can tell that there was some energy in there. And I looked around, I didn't find her. Came back through the same doorway that I saw the shadow in, and there was a noise from another part of the corner. So I went and looked and thought, well, maybe she's coming up that stairway. Well, it's not a stairway; it's another office. And again, I was still learning the building, so I had no idea where stairwells and everything else were. I thought everything was a stairwell because the way it was all constructed.
Right. So
it was an office, and then when I turned around, she was coming up the stairs that we had actually had come up originally. So when I said to her, were you back in that area? Were you over here, over there? She's like, no. I'm like, huh, interesting. So I explained to her what I saw. And I said, later on, just check your security cameras and see what happens. And on security camera, that's the shadow that I saw that was going across. And it was pretty cool. It was definitely one of those moments that you dream of, because I can tell anybody in the world that I saw the shadow, and they can.
Right.
And you know as well as I do, they're like, yeah, all right, dude, whatever. That piece right there confirmed it for me.
Yeah.
So it was really cool.
That's awesome.
Another time when we were doing a tour, I had run to a different end of the hallway to use the restroom. They left and went to another end of the building, and as I came out of the restroom, it was energized like no tomorrow. My whole body was lit up coming down the hallway. And when I got to the end of the hallway, the disembodied voices you're talking about said, "Wait for me." Stopped me dead in my tracks. I was like, "Whoa, all right."
Wow.
And I'm like, "All right, follow me." And it followed me through the hall, down through the classroom, all the way down to the other end of the hall. And when I stepped to the threshold of the doorway to go down where they were, it was gone instantaneously.
Wow.
I'm like, I turned around and said, "Where the hell did you go?" I stepped back through to see it, and the energy was gone. And I went back down, and that was another really cool. Those are the two really, really cool experiences I've had. Heather will tell you another one we had out in the barn.
Well, I think it's interesting, right? It was like, two of those experiences is like, and for me, it means a little bit more because you technically weren't ghost hunting at that moment.
No.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So this is just something that happened that was, you didn't even realize was out of the ordinary. So it's interesting because I was just talking about this, about how people always say, "Well, aren't you scared?" And I'm like, well, before you realize what happened, it's over with.
Right.
So quick. Yeah. And your brain is still trying to process what just happened.
Yeah, basically.
Or you're figuring it out as you go along, so you don't even realize it happened.
Yeah. When I looked through that and I saw that shadow, I was just like, interesting. I just thought it was Heather.
Right. And so when she
Sorry, Heather, it was not the same height. A little short. It's not the same height. So, but.
So he said something about the barn.
Yeah. We had a great guided group on one of our tours. And it was a very small group. So it was me, Frank, a friend of ours, and his name's John. And we had two girls with us. And just a very small group that evening. And, we're going through our usual. We started off in the barn. We set up some flashlights. We were going to ask some, yes and no questions. We also had the spirit box going. Basically our typical. But the more that we were interacting, the more that we were getting responses. And it just so happened that as we were doing our barn investigation, Frank was looking in one direction, the rest of us were looking in another, and one of the flashlights popped on, just lit. And as it lit, it like somersaulted off the shelf that it had been on. So nobody was standing around it. Nobody touched it. It doesn't typically move or roll. So it wasn't like it was on uneven ground, and that's why it kind of fell off the shelf or anything like that. It was just something that grabbed our attention, turned on real quick, and then like lunged off the shelf. So that was pretty awesome.
That does sound cool.
Yeah.
And I get people probably hear that and be like, okay, they're exaggerating. People are gonna critique, right? But the thing is it is a difference being that stuff happening when you're there as opposed to watching it. Like, I go live sometimes during our investigations, and if anything happens, being in the moment and being there, it's such a different experience. It's like when I went back and I rewatched sometimes.
Oh yeah,
it's different watching it than it was being in it. So I think that's like a good learning experience for me. Because some of the things I thought there, made a little bit more sense watching. Again, I was in it, and then some of the things that did make sense started to not make sense as well. So it was like the flips were happening, but a lot of the stuff was like, I was like, wow, this is so cool.
Like you said, in the moment you're looking, oh, is this? Oh, this is gonna. Oh, that could be, paranormal. Oh, that's awesome. So everybody's all hyped up in the moment. You said you go back and you watch it, and you're like, all right, so now I can sit back and critique something and go, oh, well, wait a minute, the window was open, or wait a minute, this is what happened. Oh, that guy actually shuffled his foot, so this is what happened. And you can start eliminating all of those outside influences to actually try to narrow it down. And when the best part about things is when you can eliminate all the outside influences and then start to think out the box and go, okay, now we have something here. What could it be? That's when it becomes a lot more fun.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I love EVPs, disembodied voices, and hearing stuff, because to me, that's like what gets the investigation going. Nobody ever, well, people do, but it's rare. The 98% of the investigator, they hear something. Either they hear something, or they do EVP burst and they listen back and there's something on the recorder that's not, but there's always like an audible noise that then you're like, okay, let's look more into this,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
As Jing is checking in from Indonesia, I just want to give her a shout out because, it's pretty late there for her, but she is watching. So just want to say I love her. How could you test what?
Just as an idea, how can we test what, Tim?
Yeah, just tell me what. I don't remember. I mean, I was talking so much. Hey, Brad. The claims. I guess the claims there, like I guess what people say they see and hear. I think, like, I don't know. What were we talking about?
I'm not exactly sure.
I don't know why
hearing voices and getting EVPs.
Oh, because it's not a test. It's just like you just rewind the recorder. So when I hear them, I'll say I just heard this right away. So right away I'll say I heard something. So like I heard my name. So I go, did somebody say Taryn? If everybody says no, then I stop the recorder, I rewind it, we all listen, and we hear what I think I heard. Because a lot of times, who knows, maybe somebody did make a noise and they didn't realize it was them, but listening back, they might go, oh yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
And what's funny about that too is we were in another location. We were all together investigating another location. We were sitting around a table, and a disembodied voice had called my name. Right. And again, it was between myself and our friend John, and he had heard it, but Heather didn't hear it. My wife didn't hear it.
Right.
And other people did. Nobody else heard it. John and I heard it.
Yeah.
And then we're all like, so when I looked at him, I looked at Heather, and I'm like, what? And they're like, what? Like, you guys just didn't call my name? They're like, no. So like you said, we went back and we played it back, and you can hear it on the video camera we had, and you can hear it on the recorders we had. And at this location, they had to have people sitting, just people being there. So they had somebody that was sitting outside the room in an opposite room. And when we walked out, the girl goes, I heard him call your name. So there were three of us that heard it, and it actually did get caught on video camera. So exactly. So when somebody hears something or somebody thinks they heard something and some others didn't, you check your recorders at that time and see what happens. And then
you got to do it right away.
Right. And even sometimes then you don't pick it up. But later on, when you go home with a set of headphones and it's nice and quiet, sometimes you pick up that underlying whisper that's there that you're not picking up because of the artificial noise.
Yeah. And so anyway, so it's like really not like a testing thing, because you're actually doing it as you're going, so to speak. Right. So that's why it's so important for people to always, if they move, if they say anything, and you hear something, I'm so annoying on investigations because I have bionic hearing. So I hear everything. And
I wish I did. I
hear when people, when they're in another room and their stomach's growling. You know what I mean? So I'm like, was that somebody's stuff? So I'm constantly asking, and I know it's annoying to people, but I have to, because then there's those times where it's not anybody. And nobody else heard it, and then it's like, okay. But I don't even know where the hell it's going with that. So, because he said, how do you test it? You're hearing it right then and there. I mean, if it's something that can be explainable while you're listening to it right then and there, then you throw it out, but if everybody, and like I said, a lot of times it's, you say what you have to say what you think you heard, whatever it is, because that's the only way you're going to know.
No, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Brad's right. Looking at the frequency
Oh,
as
yeah.
well with the EVP.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be like later on, right? So like you'd come home
Right.
then, but like I like doing it right away so that you don't forget it, because if you wait,
exactly.
if you wait, there's chances are you're not going to remember
where it was or
what was really going on.
Recording.
You do it right away. You're
Right.
in the moment. You remembered what was going on. You're not waiting a couple of days until after.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So that's the other thing too. And yes, Brad. I don't know if you guys ever watched the show Ghost Lab, but Ghost Lab used to be on Travel Channel, and Brad and his brother, the Klein brothers, they had an awesome show. I miss it. I would say Ghost Hunters and Ghost Lab are my favorites. So thank you for being here, Brad.
That's great.
But yeah, let's see. I've noticed disembodied voices always sound like they are up the hallway or in another room, never right with you 95% of the time.
True.
I mean, I've had both. I mean, we just were somewhere. Discovery. Sorry, that was Discovery. Oh.
Yeah. Yes, actually, because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, but you had Tim Shaw in there with you every now and then. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I swear that was Travel Channel for some reason this whole time. Okay, thank you for correcting me. I stand corrected. I used to DVR it, so you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, right. So
when you do that, you really don't.
He was on once, okay.
Yeah, he was on once. Yeah.
Good.
So I get different. I don't know about you, but I get all kinds. Like I'll get something that sounds like it's right in the recorder, or I get so far away. I hate when you hear something loud, but it is so light on the recorder you can't hear it.
Yeah.
That gets me so mad.
That's
But all right. So do people go through you then now you can't stay on the property, right? You can't sleep over.
No, we've thought about doing some sleepover special events, so that might be in the pipeline come future. But right now, no, we don't have the facilities to stay here. So,
but we are working on discounts at a hotel to be able to get your discount at a hotel spend the night, that kind of thing.
So what are the investigating hours?
They vary. So for our guided tours, we do 7, 9, and 11. And then for the privates, it's really dependent on what the group is looking for, and then what fits within Frank and our schedule, as well as the schedule of the facility, because there are other events that do occur here.
Yeah, this is real similar to Bird Mansion. As Bird Mansion is a community-wide center, so they have after school programs. They have a gym that's open 24/7 for people. You know what I mean? So they're still. So when we do the investigations there, we have to work around their schedule, obviously. Like it sounds kind of similar, It's over 200 years old, the building. You know what I mean? So it's just the whole thing is awesome.
Just the history is. I mean, when you get into a building that's 200 years old, digging through the history it's just amazing. And
it is amazing, right?
And even with this, the more we dig into the one person, the more So what is the history? Like what's the history of the building? Like was it a house at one point?
So 1825, a little before that, they started building the Erie Canal, and we've got 4 buildings on location that still stand today that were built from the stone quarried out of the canal when they were building the canal. So talk about blood, sweat, and tears. Yes. It's like all, involved in this place. But that's only the start of the property. We don't have the full history because they didn't keep good records back in the day for the original uses of those buildings. But there were different types of businesses that were on the property before it became the Western Block. And those were like an apple hydration or dehydration.
Hydration plant.
Yeah. There was a cotton batting company.
Yep.
So it was basically all business type stuff. Like it was never a home. It was never.
No, there were a couple cottages in the early days. Those got torn down by the Western Block as the Western Block started to accumulate buildings. But we also had the fire department on site. We also had the police department on site, and both of those were on location when they were running the alcohol through right next door during Prohibition. I mean, there's like in the 200 years, this property has seen so much.
Yeah.
But the Western Block, they took over in 1888 and started to purchase the different buildings surrounding their first building. And as they purchased, the property grew and grew, and now it is what it is today.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I never even heard of it. So there's just like, is there just certain, like a one building that the investigations take place, or
no? So we cover different portions depending on the availability. So our tour usually, we're very fortunate, since I own the place, I kind of always know what events are going on and what's going on when, so we can always manage to make it work.
Yeah.
So, most of our paranormal stuff, except for our kids groups, happen in the evening when our arts and cultural stuff, isn't going on and stuff like that. So we do have the ability to pretty much investigate 90% of the property.
That's awesome.
That said, we do go through the areas that we do have a little bit of the history on already. So it's not like a blank canvas. But for privates, I mean, we do have the Foundry. We do have a couple other areas that we really haven't dug into a whole lot yet, that other groups can, jump in and start investigating as well. So there's a lot of space to, and I mean, even between Frank and I, investigating here, when we try to do our own research, we may only hit, a couple rooms in any given night, and then still have to go back and do more. We haven't ourselves investigated the whole property.
Right. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. Have you taken like a metal detector to the property at all, trying to find stuff, or?
Well, there's a lot of metal here. There are actually raceways, and they're just water channels, one of which flows under one of our old stone buildings. And that was both used simultaneously for the movement of alcohol, but it was also a way for them to, they also use the water channels to power the entirety of the complex and the property. So as far as like the metal detecting, who knows what we would find. The property is actually much higher than it once was because they infilled and raised the grade. So we actually think there's a couple actual floors that we can't access anymore that used to exist and should exist based on.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And actually, when you look in the parking lot, you can actually see the archway of the windows, where the archway would be here and the road would be here. You can see the top of the archway where the windows were down below.
Oh my God. I would be wanting in so bad.
You would need
I'd be out there every day with a brush. Come on, Dirt. Come on.
You need a backhoe and one of them mine digger shaft type thing.
I would be out there with a brush, like a blush brush like this with the dirt. Like, come off.
My favorite part of those raceways, other than the fact that they used to run the alcohol from the brewery up on top of the hill underneath and everything, but my favorite part is, it played a part in Prohibition, and
that's
Little Italy was right there, and the mob and the mafia were. They used to dump bodies in that thing. They used to get rid of their problems. They knock somebody off, dump them in the raceway, and they'd end up in 18 Mile Creek or down the Niagara River somewhere.
Yeah. That's so awesome. There's a brewery. There is a brewery still there.
No, not anymore. Yeah. No, unfortunately.
Cool. The rest of it is still cool. I mean, that's got to be. I've never investigated anywhere like that with a history like that. That's actually a new history.
Well, the Peaches are welcome to come down and do an investigation. So.
Oh my God, we would love to. Absolutely. We would love to. I would love to. I mean, as you're describing, I'm like this. like in my head, it's like.
Walking through it is really, really cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So how do you use a golf cart to get around on the property, or do you
walk?
Walk.
Yeah. So, and I tried counting. I think we have 13 buildings. It's kind of hard to tell where one building starts and stops and what's considered a building, but they're all pretty much interconnected.
Cool.
So yeah, and a good portion of it is heated. So our winter hunts, our October hunts are fabulous because nobody's freezing. There's heat.
I like that.
And we have indoor bathrooms.
Yes, we have indoor bathroom. Yep.
You guys are speaking my language.
Yes.
No porta potties.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm in. It sounds awesome. I mean, I would love to walk around, even to get the history and just take it all in, and sounds awesome. I don't know where is it located at?
Lockport, New York.
What is it?
Lockport, New York.
Lockport. One word?
Yep.
Lockport, New York. I wonder how far that is from me.
Where are you at?
I'm on the Jersey side, but I'm 15 minutes from Philly.
So about 7 hours.
Not bad.
5, 6.
About 7 hours.
Yeah.
Because we're about. It took us. I did Burlington County Jail Museum.
Oh, I'm 40 minutes from there.
Okay, so I have a friend of ours, Nancy, lives about 40 minutes there. She actually lives 10 minutes straight drive to Eastern State. So she lives.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so she sounds like she lives close to me.
Yeah, she's right in Philly somewhere.
Yeah.
Not exactly sure where, but she's in Philly somewhere. So she's right there. And it took about 5.5, 6 hours to get to her house, and then about 40 minutes to there. So figure about 7 hours, give or take.
Yeah, which I can do. I just did it when I went to Withville, Virginia, when I went to the Octagon Mansion.
Right.
That was interesting. You guys, I mean, that had a big response to it, but I went there and I did a live investigation on Paranormal Brew.
I saw part of that.
And it was me and the owner, and we did this investigation, and we had some things happen that I can't explain, but it was all live. So I tell everybody, please go back and watch it and tell me what you guys think. But it looked good. It looks good for them, especially with all that stuff happening, Right. So I'm glad that something happened. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
For them, because, every location needs help, no matter what type of location it is, you're not always going to get grants and this and that and money handed to you, so, not only are you helping a location with whatever it is, restoration, whatever. I mean, just like Bird Mansion, they do well for themselves, I mean, it is a historic building. They need a new roof. It's $100,000,
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Right. So, and people think that these places think that they just can cough this money up, know? And,
it's nuts. Yeah.
And, so to be a part of a location's history in this way, is all the money I need to do it. A lot of people go, well, we don't get paid doing this. I'm like, listen, I've done a lot of awesome shit,
right, exactly.
And there's not money involved, but to me, that's the reward for what I do,
exactly.
Being able to get in these places, like you opening up your place for this, for paranormal investigations, you don't have to do that.
No. Yeah.
You don't have to do that,
What I think a lot of people don't realize too is, especially the places that open their properties up for investigations, there's a higher risk that the property could get destroyed by doing these investigations. So, I mean, we love doing it because we learn more about the history through here, and we're introducing, people who might not otherwise investigate. We get new people all the time. Right. But yeah, I'm glad you raised that point, because a lot of the places, there are renovation costs, there's upkeep costs that a lot of people just don't even realize.
Yeah. And with historic buildings, there's different things you got to do. If you have to replace a window, it's got to be period.
Replace the window, right?
So, I mean, you gotta. It's not $100 to replace a window.
No.
People don't realize how expensive that becomes. But again, I mean, and here's the other thing too is a lot of locations are just overused. you know, and I say that respectfully because I know a lot of people that have amazing locations, and I will still go there. I don't care how used it gets, you know, but you know, it's good to have that break every once in a while and go somewhere new where, you know, like I've never investigated where prohibition,
right,
you know, was done at. I mean, not that's to my knowledge anyway. Nobody ever said that. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
So that part of history is like really interesting to me. Have you ever caught anything that would match up with the alcohol running and stuff like that? Like anything with the prohibition?
Yeah. That was a topic we hit on a lot when our first year of bringing our public guided tours through. And anytime we would bring up the topic of prohibition and the use of the tunnels in our one stone building where it was, you know, being run through, we would get all sorts of activity, almost like they were tantruming, like, oh, you know, don't, you know, this is just stop or shut up. And we literally would get EVPs, which would say, stop and shut up. When we did some of our more focused ones, you know, we tried to build a rapport with some of the spirits that are here that we tend to communicate with on more than one occasion. Right. And it was kind of funny because, you know, we'll joke around a little bit just to build that rapport. And there was a point where I was like, can you guess my drink? And you could hear one person say, go ahead and tell her. And then another person, you know, offer up what my favorite drink was. And later on, I asked for the combination to a safe, and you could hear this one person who had earlier said, you know, go ahead and give it to her. You could hear him say, no, don't give it to her. So it's funny because like those kind of interactions we know with the safe and with the running of the alcohol, always kind of something that we touched on and went together. So yeah, certain topics, when we talk about them here, they provoke, you know, certain responses from certain people. Other topics, you know, will provoke other responses from different spirits that are here. So it's
I think that's important because, you know, I did learn, and Brad's show, you know, Ghost Lab, they used to do RQs, you know, where they would dress in, or they do things in that period of time.
That's what we were looking for.
So
we were just talking about this the other day. We had some people here who were in some period dress and dressed up as different things, and we were talking about, you know, what kind of things are triggers. You know, was it the fact? And Frank and I went through the building later on after they had left, and we had a lot of different experiences that we don't typically even have here. Right. And that was exactly it. It was, well, that's where we were trying to figure out what that word was, but
right, exactly.
Those triggering events and stuff like that are always phenomenal.
Yeah. I want to disclaim something because I don't want anybody in my friend, because I have a lot of friends that own places. I don't want to say they're overused in a bad way. That's not what I meant.
Oh no.
We recycle out, right? So if we ever find a new location we go to, it doesn't mean we're not going to come back and we don't love it. You know, and while we're off over here at Western Block, somebody new's coming into there, you know, where normally we would be, right? But somebody else is coming in and kind of doing their thing. And then we cycle through.
And that's what it should be.
I just want to disclaim that. I don't want anybody to think of it.
That's what it should be. Everybody should try new locations.
Yeah, for sure.
And all the locations you're talking about, that everybody's always there. And the way I look at it is, everybody wants to say that they've been to X and X location because that's the name, that's what they saw on TV, that's all the stuff, and that's great. We do it. I don't mind. I've been to the Conjuring House, obviously Hinsdale. You know, of course you want to throw those. Yeah, I've been there. Of course I've been there. Mm-hmm. But it's also nice to get to these other locations that are starting up to bring them more business or bring them more into the light, so everybody can start going to these other places as well as the name brand places.
Yep, absolutely. And you know, and it's so tough right now because, just like that's happening on your end. I've been a podcast for 6 years, and when COVID hit, everybody started doing podcasts.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
There was more YouTubers, there was more live investigation, and kind of drowns us OGs out. It drowns us out because there's all these people, and 90, okay, maybe not 90%, but a lot of them are faking their investigations. And
absolutely.
There's locations that are opening that are lying about it being haunted or faking their stuff, and that's scary for people then to go to a new location. So like, it's kind of like all of this stuff is kind of like, the people that are legit and in it and, have the right reasons and is passionate, they're kind of, because they're not this, demon, what's that? Jumping all over the place and,
Nope, I hear you.
Unfortunately, but, it's, so it's tough. So any exposure, is has to help.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So would they go through you, Frank, to set up an investigation, or?
So we actually have a phone number for Niagara Western Block, and that phone number, if you text the phone number, it goes to either Frank and I. So
okay, tell me what it is.
It is 716-320-0740.
All right. And what did you say before Western Block? You said
Niagara.
Niagara. Is that one word?
Yep.
Okay, hold on. I'm typing it. Sorry. This is. I usually don't do this, but I can't say. Hold on. Oh my God.
Put them glasses on.
Niagara. Western Block.
And if you go to paraniagara.com, we have more information on the website about the history, about some of the tours.
We're actually starting a new tour, right? We were actually starting a new tour. It is a private guided tour. So, like Heather said, in the spring from February to May, once a month, we do public guided tours. So during the summertime, it gets dead. Nobody wants to, we're not, instead of what's that?
No pun?
No pun, exactly. It gets dead. There's no, everybody's got other things to do. But if you have a group of people, a group of 5 people for $40 a person, it's the same hour and 45-minute tour that we give publicly, but it's just your group. You book the time, and it's either 9 o'clock or 11 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday. And we come out, we give you the same tour that we would give the public tour, except for it's just you and your friends. And that's for up to 10 people.
Hey, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, how many people?
Up to 10 people.
Up to 10. Is there a minimum?
5.
We can take up to 15, but we try to keep the group a little bit smaller. It's a little bit easier that way, but so.
Awesome. So, and then you said you do a haunted thing during the October seasons, or you just do paranormal?
Oh no, no hunt. We just do the guided tours during October.
Oh, okay. So no haunted no attraction or anything like that. It's
no.
Okay.
No jump scares, none of that crap.
Oh yeah.
Okay. No. All right. I wasn't sure. I thought that's what you meant, but I wanted to make sure because I know you were saying.
And actually, when we're running our tours, like the once a month tour during the spring, and then our tours in October on Saturdays from 2 to 4 is our kids ghost hunt from 2 to 4.
That's cool.
Yep.
So how young and what age up to?
7 to 13.
7 to 13. That's awesome.
Yep. We bring them in. We put all the equipment out on the table, explain what the equipment is, and they get to come up, pick a piece of equipment, and then we take them through the same areas that we take the adults. The only difference is there's sunlight or regular light, and it's not as intimidating for the kids.
Yeah.
You get to learn the equipment, play with the equipment, use the equipment, and a lot of times they get a lot better responses than any adults ever do.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, kids, they're. Have you ever had any of them be really scared and you had to?
We had so when we do our kids ones, it's a family event. So their parents come with them, which makes it a little easier on them if they have questions. Their parents know how to, cater to what they need, and the knowledge that they want them to know. But yeah, we had what was it? One little girl that mom kept taking her out, and the dad and the other sibling stayed. So yeah, occasionally we'll get somebody that.
Yeah, sometimes people get themselves all worked up,
Yeah, but whether it's the kids or the adults, I mean, if anybody does get fearful like that and they want to move into a different area, we take them. So
that's cool. Yeah, that happened to me at Eastern State one time, and it was when they newly opened up one of the medical wing, and they took us into where they did dentistry, and I walked in the room, and I normally don't. I'm not a psychic medium, anything like that. So normally I walk around like an idiot, I'm like, duh. Picking stuff up, because I'm not going to feel something's negative or anything like that. I'm just walking around, but I walked in that room and immediately felt unwelcome. Like I wasn't wanted in there. I don't know why that happened, but I stepped out and they were not as nice. They're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I mean, how do you say that to a security guard, right? Like, well, here's the thing. I don't feel wanted in there. Like, he's going to say,
yeah, right. What? Get in there.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So, I mean, they made it a little tougher. You know what I mean? They were, because they weren't,
Sure. Yeah. And it's a prison, so I get it. I mean, prisons are my thing, obviously. Like Buddy Wesley, those are my things. I love prisons. Let's do a prison. You want to do a prison? I'll set the whole place off if we have to. I will just set it off if necessary.
What'd you think of Burlington County?
I liked it. It was nice. It's small. It's a small jail, but we got the shadow that hangs out underneath the stairs. We got to see that. And when we were in, I can't remember what room we were in. We were in one of the rooms, and we were doing an EVP session with the real-time EVP I had, and the one guy he was in there for drunk driving, and he ended up killing a guard or or assaulting the warden, something like that. I can't remember offhand. It's on one of the plaques. Mm-hmm. Started poking the bear on that, and it felt like somebody took something and just kind of jabbed it right into my top of my shoulder.
Oh wow!
Well, that was a different experience. We got a few. I don't even want to use the word EVP out of it, but we got some strange noises when we were out by the gallows. We would do an EVP session. It wasn't voices coming through, but it was noises and knocks and just different things that were not there that you couldn't hear that were being picked up. So
interesting. I wonder if it was anybody like hanging or like the gallows being, the floor being open.
Floor dropping open. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think of that at the time. Yeah, I mean, it could have been. It was just a lot of weird noises. No voices or anything. Just a lot of really weird noises.
Yeah. So. Yeah. That's it. I mean, I like, for some reason, asylums are it for me. Like, that's my thing. I love.
I'm okay with them. A lot of crazy people in asylum.
I always get good. I know it sounds crazy. I'm like, everyone's think I'm crazy, but
right?
I always get good responses at the asylums, and so Pennhurst and all that. I love it there. But that's when you're picturing. When you're talking about the land, I'm picturing, because Pennhurst is really big, and they take golf carts to go to some of the, because it's so spread out, But that's why I asked you that question.
We got to get to Pennhurst.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys would love it.
You got to get there.
So real quick, just tell everybody like what's going on. Like if you have any events coming up or anything open for investigating, and just where people can find you. And I put the phone number up. I put the website up.
Awesome.
Thank you.
But yeah, you can just tell everybody what's going on and where to find you and all that good stuff.
Well, find us at www.period.Heather.com. And we also have a Facebook page, but you can find that through the website. And as far as events coming up, we do have our private guided. So if you have a bunch of friends and you've never ghost hunted before, you kind of want to start dabbling in it, get a hold of us. If you're more experienced and you want to do a private non-guided, get a hold of us. We'll set something up.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
Awesome. And then Frank, are you going to be at any events, or are you kind of just doing the investigations stuff at?
Right now, just the investigations. If there's an event that comes up that I can get to, we're gonna get to them. We are trying to think. I did want to get to Gettysburg, but I don't know if that date's gonna work. Hopefully it does.
Look, I just found out that I wasn't gonna be able to make it to Penhurst next year. I'm like devastated, right? But it's not for a graduation party.
Well, I mean, it's
for a planned cruise and we're flying to Barcelona the day before. Like, you know what I mean?
It is. Let me check and see, and if I can swing it, I'll swing it. I would like to get back to Gettysburg, and I was thinking about it. So if we can swing that, that is the bash.
Awesome.
That's the Gettysburg Bash. Is that what that is?
Yeah. That is a really fun time.
Yeah.
Wes is going to be there. There's going to be a lot of people. Wes will be there. Ernie will be there. There's going to be a lot of people there. Yeah.
So maybe we will. We'll have to see if we can swing it out. Even if it's like Thursday and Friday and come back Saturday or whatever. One way or the other, we'll try to figure it out. I'll try to figure it out and see what we can do. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Heather.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you're at the location, right? You're there?
Yeah. Sorry, I kept looking over my shoulder. Like, I kept hearing things, and we were here last night? No, night before. And we saw something. So where you see that, there we go. Sign? That exit sign, we had a figure standing right under it. So I wasn't sure if they're gonna pop back up today.
That's awesome. But Frank, the video you were playing, is that on your Buffalo Phantom Hunters, or is that on the video? Can people see that? The one you were playing? Yes,
it is at Buffalo Phantom Hunters, yes. Yeah. And it's also at Paranormal, I believe, as well too.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So there's a video on there of, we were talking about it in the beginning, of a shadow person, Frank saw, and they actually got it on the video and stuff. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff up that they have up to check out this place. Hopefully one day soon, we'll get out there, the beaches, and we'll come and investigate. And
we also have to meet somewhere together and investigate somewhere together.
Yes.
We'll have to figure out something and figure out where to do.
Yeah, I'm down.
It'd be great to investigate with you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. We'll talk for sure.
Awesome. Good.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, guys. You guys are great.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. With that, we are going to close it out. I will see you guys Wednesday. Hold on. Sorry, I did have it open. Justin Soto coming on. He is a Urbex Explorer. So that should be an interesting show. Looking forward to talking to him. So make sure you join me Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Love you guys. Thank you.